What's up, Acadiana, and welcome to Offsides. I'm Shannon Wilkerson here with Brandon Comeaux. Thanks for joining us for today's broadcast. We will be with you until 6 o'clock. It is currently 4:05, looks like. And beautiful, nice Wednesday afternoon. Hope everybody is winding up a good day on Hump Day right in the middle of the week. You're just a few more days away from the weekend. This is kind of, Hump Day is something I never really experienced traditionally. People made a big deal about Hump Day, and once you get past lunch on Wednesday, then you're halfway to the weekend.
Absolutely.
You got to get past lunch because that's halfway through.
Oh, absolutely.
I guess if that's the best way for me to describe it.
Halfway through the halfway through.
Halfway through.
I look at it as it's all downhill from here. You get to the top of the hill at that lunch midpoint on Wednesday, and then it's all coasting the rest of the way.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Okay, so listen. It's amazing to me how technology continues to really overwhelm me and create new and challenging issues for society, for law enforcement, for politicians, just about every aspect of life. New technology has advanced to the point where it creates new opportunities and new problems. And now there is a big story that has been brewing in the last few days that lends itself to that, conversation topic. And that is 3D guns. This is amazing to me. When I first learned about 3D printers years ago, I was amazed. I said, what is that? How does it work? What can it do? Basically, a 3D printer can just make things. All right, there are certain types of plastics that it can work with and other types of materials. Well, now 3D printers can, in fact, make plastic guns.
Yes.
And the program for this has now been downloaded. There's a legal issue that's going on, and the designer was blocked from continuing to make the plans to print plastic guns with a 3D printer available online. Here's the problem: it had already been downloaded like 1,000 times.
Right.
It doesn't matter now. They're preventing it from further downloads. Currently, he's making an argument that it is a free speech issue, and I don't know how far that's going to go, but. As he said it, that ship has sailed. It's already been downloaded 1,000 times, and so it's already out there. The people that have downloaded it can then share it with other people, and so it's going to spread out. But the problem that we're having with this is the obvious, because these 3D printers can now make handguns out of plastic, and so therefore they're non-detectable by metal detectors.
And let me give a little bit more background to it as well, because basically what it is it's a process called additive manufacturing. So instead of applying ink to a paper, basically what the 3D printers do is they apply layer after layer of a specific material. Of course, in this case, it would be plastic in a specific shape until a 3D object arises. Now, there's a little bit more to it than that. But what's interesting here is one of the things that you're about to talk about is that how it's undetectable when going through metal detectors, which violates, federal law. Federal law says your gun has to be able to be detected if it's going through a metal detector.
Yep.
And if it's not, then you are in violation of the law. Yeah,
that's right. And that's a perfect description of how it works. And it's Defense Distributed. That's the website that created the plans to print this 3D gun. And you need ABS plastic parts, which is the same thing found in Legos.
Yes.
Just to give you a comparison. Okay, so what the plastic that is used to build Legos is the same thing that would be used to build these 3D guns. Now the guns only work for a short period of time. You can only fire a few rounds out of them, and then they break down because of the heat, and they just do not last. However, anybody with a 3D printer can, in fact, make this. And so this is very, very dangerous. You're talking about felons that can make guns undetectable. There's no serial number. There's no even way to detect whether or not it has been built, all right, or how many times it's been built. So even though the gun may only fire a few times, you can make as many of them as you want, and then they just become disposable. Yeah. So you could enter into a school, you could enter into a concert venue, a sports arena, You can basically go anywhere. You can even smuggle them more easily into prisons.
Absolutely.
And so I believe that gangsters and gangs will buy these. Now these 3D printers cost thousands of dollars. Okay, but think of the value of having one of them. If you can make a non-detectable firearm with it that is non-traceable, non-detectable, and easily disposable at that. Because after you shoot somebody with it, guess what you can do? Melt it down.
I would say right now in its infancy, even though 3D printing can go back to the 80s. And then, of course, there was the example you gave about in 2012 where you had the first gun that was created by a 3D printer was called the Liberator back in 2012.
Yes.
But right now in its infancy, basically the Liberator was made by a $1,700 printer. And, you know, they talk about machines to be able to make a metal version of a 3D printed gun is at like $100,000.
Yes.
But the plastic version goes into the thousands. So if you're talking about your common everyday criminal, you know, like an example I had heard of, you know, say you have a gangbanger. Well, what's this gangbanger going to do? Going to go ahead and try to get a hold of a 3D printing gun, you know, make a gun that's got a good chance of malfunctioning and can only get off a couple shots? Or are they going to do it the old traditional way and just steal a gun from somebody?
Well,
steal the guns, you know, buy them underground and all that. Well, we know what they're going to continue doing. But this is still in its infancy. As we know, every time technology comes out, it's improved upon and made better.
That's right.
And that's the fear. And it's a legitimate fear.
And you're right. The criminals now are going to continue the pattern that they are currently on. They're going to continue to use regular weapons. However, if they find themselves in need of a weapon that they need to use inside a building that has a metal detector, this is the perfect answer.
I think it's the more sophisticated criminals that you're talking about, because what you were giving, you were getting upon it earlier as well, and think about an assassin, someone that comes in that's not known, you know, goes undercover a lot of times, not undercover for police, but undercover in the crime world, and is able to get a gun like this across, and all you need is one good shot. Like you said, they can do it and then dispose of the gun easily.
Or you can have 3 or 4 of them. All right. If you can find a way, if you have a book bag or a suitcase or anything like that, knapsack, you can get several of them in there. You fire off 3 or 4 shots, drop it. Fire off 3 or 4 shots, drop it. But I'll tell you, you're right. When you talk about technology, technology is continuing to advance. So these 3D printers are now making plastic guns that only fire maybe 3 rounds, maybe 4 rounds. 2 years from now, they may be able to develop a plastic that they would be able to make these 3D guns with that do not break down after 3 or 4 rounds, and they can fire off 16 rounds just like a regular clip.
232-1542. We see the phone lines are lit up, so let's go ahead and get the callers in on the conversation. All right, caller, you're on the Cajun Harley Hotline. Go ahead.
2 observations, man. I don't know much about these 3D printed, but number one, ammunition still has to be made out of a metal. Yes, some of it's brass. I don't think that the common person is going to be able to, number one, afford the technology. Number two, even if they could get a weapon that could fire multiple rounds, in order to have a weapon that would fire semi-automatic, it would still require mechanical parts. You might be able to get a crack barrel, single, one-time use weapon that could fire like a 9mm round. And lucky if it doesn't blow up in your hand, because it's about 40,000 PSI, and I'm sure there's some gun people out here that could give the numbers more accurate. But I really think that we're worried about something that is about 10 to 15 years ahead of our time right now.
Well, I'll tell you, if I may comment at that point, 10 years go by pretty fast. Okay, and you're right. We may be 10 years away before this technology advances to the point where it is a real serious threat for our day-to-day living. But as I mentioned before, 10 years go by very quickly. And the way the technology is advancing and how we use new technology to produce more new technology, I think that it is more practical that this is going to advance sooner than 10 years. But I'll tell you, right now, these plans give you the opportunity to make the same as a Beretta M9 or an AR-15 style rifle.
Yeah, I mean, some of these bullets that they're talking about with these 3D guns can penetrate the skull, so they can cause some major damage.
Mm-hmm.
No, and look, I understand the problem. And look, guns are easy to get no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. The problem is the detection of them. I mean, I can make a phone call right now on any one of our boards in Louisiana and legally purchase a handgun that no one knows about.
Right.
Sneaking into a venue at this point is a different scenario. And I do understand an assassin. They've been making plastic guns for years. You can build one with blueprints off the internet, just like you can build a bomb from blueprints off the internet.
Yeah. Here's the difference, caller. You're right. The technology has been out there for a very long time. The difference now is that somebody like myself, who has absolutely no experience, no knowledge of any type of gunsmithing, I can go buy a 3D printer. I can get these plans, and I can build this right there in my kitchen very effortlessly, without any prior knowledge of how even how a gun works, or how to take apart a gun, put the gun back together. And so the difference now is that these printers are readily available for anybody that's got a couple $1,000 to buy it.
And I see both sides of it. I really don't think it's going to catch on. I think the idea is way more frightening than the reality right now.
Okay.
I think that's a good point. Thank you so much, caller. I think it's a very good way of saying it. And I want to add this. While there are some politicians out there that are really overhyping this thing, which is I'm pretty sure what the caller's talking about, I'd say just because someone on the opposite side of the aisle of you is overhyping it, especially when it comes to this situation, doesn't mean that we don't have to take it serious. Because as we've talked about, this is something with technology advancing, it could become a massive problem in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I tell you, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms tested one of these, and the gun fired 8 times effectively.
Right.
So that's quite a bit. And so, listen, getting guns into locations where guns are not allowed, criminals normally will find a way. Yeah. But this will just make it easier for them.
232-1542, 232-1542. Back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hi.
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 There, the gun is undetectable. The bullets that you put in it will be coming. It'll pick up on the metal detector. They're not. If you put more than 2 in there, it's going to register real high. I work a metal detector. It'll pick up a bobby pin. And they set the machine. You got to put bullets in it. You hear it, then you hand search. You find the weapon. They can't get it in anywhere without the bullets. The gun is useless.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but the concern that I would have is the practical application of using a metal detector that is that sensitive. Because if, as you just said, you can have a metal detector that is so sensitive that it will fire an alert just with a bobby pin. But just imagine if you had to go through a metal detector that was that sensitive every time you had to go into an office building that you worked at. And so you're right. The bullets will set off a metal detector. The gun is not going to be effective without the bullets. But I'll tell you, getting a few bullets past a metal detector is a lot easier than getting a regular metal-built gun.
Not when it becomes areas where they want to soup up the security. You go through an airport. Now they're doing where you stand there and it x-rays you. There's other means of checking. When you go to Angola to go prison, they got dogs that sniff for drugs and explosive bullets.
Yeah, I hear you.
So they have it all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, 232-1542. We're going to go ahead and take this quick commercial break. When we come back, we'd love to hear more of your thoughts as we talk about 3D printed guns. What are we looking at now? What are we looking at in the future? We'll be right back. All right, 232-1542. Now, before we go to the phone lines, I want to mention this, since we're talking about the topic, and kind of throw another, because, everything nowadays, you have to look at it from a legal side as well. There's this great show that wrapped up a couple of years ago. My wife and I watched every episode. It was great. It was called The Good Wife. Now, there's the continuation of it, The Good Fight. That show is just, don't like it at all.
About the judge?
Yeah, well, the Good Fight is with
The Good Wife.
The Good Wife is with the lawyer. It follows Alicia Fleur. It really does a great job of showing both the politics and the legal side and how they go, how they mesh with each other.
Yeah, sure.
The Good Fight is something more that's been kind of anti-Trump, which I can't watch. Yeah. But The Good Fight really brought up a lot of issues ahead of its time, and one of those issues was 3D printed guns. Mm-hmm. And in 2015, there was an episode where they showed a man who was paralyzed by a malfunctioning gun that was created on a 3D printer. And so I really wonder going forward, when we look at these 3D guns and we talk about how much they have a propensity to explode in these early stages, what kind of lawsuits are we going to potentially see going forward with these 3D printed guns?
Well, I think that we're going to be loaded with it. And you mentioned the show and how it was kind of ahead of its time. I remember there was a movie, and I don't remember the name of the movie, so bear with me. I think it was In the Line of Fire.
Oh, yeah.
With John Malkovich. And he made a gun out of wood.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, in that movie. And so this kind of parallels that. He found a way to create a firearm that could get through metal detectors.
Right.
And he was an assassin. And so, listen, one of the callers earlier mentioned that criminals are still going to use regular guns. It's not likely that they're going to be using these a lot because these aren't very efficient weapons. Okay, you got to make them.
They're not very safe.
They're not very safe.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. You can only get a few rounds out, and then they're done. But you can make as many of them as you want.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't need a license to get it. It doesn't have any serial number. And it's plastic, so you can get it in someplace. A lot of people have been making the argument, or at least bringing up the point, which is quite valid, that it doesn't do you any good without any bullets. Okay, but you can get the bullets into a building in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay, ahead of time, the bullets can be someplace. Then you just go there and you get the bullets. You put them in your plastic weapon, and then you use the weapon. But either way, this is a scary thing. Like I was mentioning at the beginning of the hour, this is new technology, and it's going to create new problems, just like lots of new technology.
232-1542, back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, guys, I have some intimate knowledge of this subject and firearms manufactured in general.
All right, great.
A couple of points on this one. First of all, currently in the United States of America, it is not illegal for one who doesn't have a criminal background to manufacture a firearm and use it, as long as he doesn't use it in the commission of a crime or intend to use it in the commission of a crime. Also, that you can buy a metal receiver. The receiver is the only part that the FFL, you get a federal firearms license for. The only part in the United States we consider a firearm, and it's the main core of the part that houses all the moving functions and trigger mechanisms generally. Now, you can plastic print AR-15 receivers, and the success rate, you got to reuse some pretty good plastics to do it, and you build it with the rest of the metal parts that you buy legally without a firearms license or any paperwork of any kind.
You just can't sell them legally, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It is yours. You cannot give it to anybody. You cannot will it to anybody.
Right.
If you are going to dispose of it, you must dispose of it to a law enforcement officer. Also, you can buy legally a piece of metal, which is called a 70% receiver, and with simple hand tools and jigs, you can machine the rest of it and build a parts gun out of parts, and it is non-serialized. So this is really a big challenge to the First and Second Amendment, and where does man's law and natural law meet up? When do we lose the right to defend ourselves legally, and when do we have to declare them firearms? So this is a big challenge to the Constitution, and we'll see how far this goes.
Yeah, it's an interesting case for them when they get it. Yeah. Sooner or later, the Supreme Court is likely going to see a case that it's involving this exact same issue. And you're right; it's a very complicated way or rather a very complicated issue with the Constitution, because we do retain that right. However, the government is certainly going to argue that these weapons cannot apply. Okay, you've got to have serial numbers. You've got to have certification as to who's buying them. We got to know who has the guns and where they are, at least to a certain degree. And this eliminates it completely.
The guy has gotten, he's opened Pandora's box with this one, and he's taken on a lot more than he thought he would ever take on by letting this out. But when does information that you don't use become illegal? That's what I want to know. That is really a free speech issue. Having the knowledge and being able to access it should never be made illegal. Using it for the wrong purposes should.
Yeah, it's just like, thanks for the call. It's just like being able to go online and learn how to make a bomb. Yeah. And, if they do, in fact, make the plans for this illegal to continue to download, you're still going to be able to access it on the dark web.
Right.
I mean, people are going to get it. It's already out there.
232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey,
listen, that caller took a few of my points, but that's good that he brought it out there. But I know for a fact, let me go back a few callers before said that we were ahead of our times and all of that and shouldn't be worried about it. It only takes one round to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, so you put these things in the wrong hands and they are deadly. Okay, so I can see both sides of it. I really don't know how far it's all going to go, but I can see both sides of it. First Amendment rights, Second Amendment, all of this stuff comes into play. But as far as people manufacturing guns, there's guys out there with CNC machines that are completely 100% milling their own guns. I've seen them.
Oh yeah, I saw a video, and I saw a video of it today that you can get the plans. You can mill your own gun with some basic machinist equipment. The difference between that, and that's very dangerous as well. You don't have any serial numbers. The government, nobody has any knowledge of who and where the gun is being made. The difference between those and this is that these are made out of plastic. You can just walk through a metal detector. I think that these plastic guns right now have a lot of limits to them. Right? They're not very effective, very efficient weapons. And the fact that you can get them in past the metal detector, of course, that's very appealing to criminals, but only to a certain degree because they're so limited. Criminals want to be able to fire off a lot of rounds if they need to, not necessarily to accomplish the crime, but to get out of there if somebody's shooting at them. All right. But as Brandon mentioned earlier, technology is advancing at such an incredible rate. I don't think it's going to be long before you're going to be able to make one of these plastic guns that works a whole lot better.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind that technology is coming so fast, and I mean in leaps and bounds in every field, not just weapons and guns, but in a lot of stuff. But I was just concerned when that fella said that we shouldn't be worried about this because that's not true, man. It only takes one round.
Yeah.
One bullet to go downrange to kill some innocent kid that's sitting over there in the living room or driving by in their car or whatever. One round. People remember, one round.
Yeah. All right. You're right. Thanks for the call. We'll be right back on Offsides. 232-1542. Welcome back to Offsides, everybody. Shannon Wilkerson here with Brandon Comeaux. Man, we're talking about technology and how it's advanced. And now you can build your own gun out of plastic. You just need a few $1,000s for a 3D printer. You need the same type of plastic that they make Legos with. You download the plans. You enter it into you load the format and the plans into your 3D printer. Press go. Sit back and watch your gun be built right there before your very eyes. It's really incredible. The way these 3D printers create things. I don't know. I was watching a lot of videos when we were thinking about doing this show today, and it really is fantastic technology. But just like with all new technology, it's going to have a dark side to it. Yeah. And this is how new technology, I'm sure that when the idea of 3D printing was created, I don't know if they had making plastic guns in mind.
Yeah, people that have been in the gun industry, I mean, I've talked to a couple of them about this, and they've seen this coming for a little while now, for, I guess, the main public. this is something that is kind of catching them maybe a little off guard, or really it just sounds like some crazy sci-fi stuff. I mean, it really does.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like Star Trek. Okay.
Exactly.
It sounds like something that Captain Kirk would tell Spock to do.
Yeah.
Go make another plastic gun.
Right. But for a lot of people in the gun industry, they've been seeing this coming for a while, and there's been a couple of things along the way. There was a case recently on this that ruled in the favor of, those creating plastic guns. And, gun people that I've talked to are very much in favor of it. So we'll see moving forward how this thing is allowed to continue on and how it's regulated. 232-1542. We go to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, guys.
Hey.
Listen, you mentioned a while ago that someone was paralyzed whenever one of the weapons they fired malfunctioned.
No. That was from a TV show that took this issue up in 2015.
Fiction.
It's fiction. And basically what happened was the case was a guy got paralyzed after using one of these guns because it malfunctioned.
Well, a few days ago, whenever they started putting it on network news that you could do this, I wondered about the safety of them, because a few years ago, I considered there's a certain caliber bullet that fits in the chamber of a single-shot 410 shotgun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I did some reading before I did that, and someone with more knowledge than me on it said that these guns are designed to withstand a certain amount of chamber pressure for the appropriate, bullet you put in it. So how do they know these plastic things can withstand that?
Well, they can't. They can only these guns are only designed to be able to fire a few times, and then they break down.
Well, most of them are a round or two, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then after a while, like you said, Shannon, they break them out, and they're not that accurate either.
No, it's for these guns are designed or will be used strictly for criminals. Okay, because you got to be right up on the person. They're not very accurate, and you're only going to have one or two. Now, there are some, as I mentioned before, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms did a test on one, and they got 8 accurate shots out of it before the plastic broke down. But most of these, the plastic that people can buy, just the regular public can buy, and made with a 3D printer that most people can afford, because they have 3D printers that run into up to $100,000. Mm-hmm. But they've got some that are just a few $1,000s that are capable of making this. But you're only going to get a few rounds out of it, and you got to be right up on your target.
Well, my concern is how many young people who don't have any real-world experience, much less knowledge of firearms, are going to get their hands on, the ones that can afford this kind of stuff and make their own pistol and go out play in the woods and end up the breech blowing up in their face or in their hand.
I think it's bound to happen. I think it's bound to happen a lot.
Yeah, because the cheap 3D printers are into the hundreds of dollars. Now, like you said, the good ones, like the one that made the Liberator, that was $1,700, $1,700. Mm-hmm. But there are some that are a little lower grade than that. But I think what we could end up having is some situations where if you do get teenagers or those that don't maybe have a lot of experience trying to make a gun themselves, especially with a cheaper printer, then we may have a lot more of the malfunctioning issue that hurts them more than them hurting others.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm enjoying your show, and I've been listening to y'all for a while, and I'm glad I was able to get through. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We
appreciate you listening.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up next. Go ahead. Oh, caller. Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Oh, man, we're good.
That's a good idea, Charles. Done good. You guys make a good pellet gun, a 3D printed gun.
Yes.
You have a little plastic barrel that shoots your pellets out of and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
I
don't even know if you're serious or not. It's a good idea that y'all are doing good. Appreciate that.
We appreciate it. Go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I don't shoot real guns. I just shoot pellet guns.
You just use pellet guns and not real guns?
Yeah, just use pellet guns, not real guns.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, man. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing.
So do these 3D printed guns kind of catch your eye as something that you'd be interested in for the future? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
We'd have to turn that down because that is a lot of background noise.
I couldn't hear anything.
I think that might have been some of the
But
confusion.
I think it's a good idea that we're doing good. 232-1542, the Cajun Harley hotline. Hey, I tell you, I've worked in environments before where metal detectors were required.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't say where.
Uh-huh.
However, I have worked in environments where metal detectors were required.
Yeah.
And walk-through metal detectors were used. Wands, metal detectors that are used like a wand were used. And even in those type of situations, there were times when weapons would still get through.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So criminals will find a way. You can even find in history, you'll find cases where guns got into prisons. So criminals will find a way. The problem with this is that this makes it a lot easier for them.
And the guy, and look, you brought up a good point with airport security, but the other thing to think about is not all airports screen the same way.
That's right.
Just on a recent trip I had, I'd noticed one airport was a lot tougher than the other one. They don't all approach it with the same seriousness and tenacity. Some areas, the TSA, some of those are a little bit more rigid than the other ones. So, I said, there's people that are smart enough will find a way to get it.
Yeah.
done.
I think that the problem here, we're going to go right back to the phone lines. So y'all hold on a second. The issue here is that I believe, and I think that a lot of people would agree with me, that the majority of the people that want to do this are criminals. Okay, I mean, who else would want, if you want to fire a gun, you want to own a gun, if you, Brandon Comeaux, wants to own a gun, you're not going to go buy a 3D printer and build a plastic gun that you can only fire 2 shots out of.
Right.
Okay, I think statistically, the huge majority of the people that are going to use this technology are going to use it for criminal behavior.
I can't disagree with that the more I think about it. Because
why else? Why not just get a gun that's going to work?
Yeah.
More than just 2 shots.
Now, when the technology advances where it becomes more affordable and it becomes more safe to be able to use.
More dependable weapon.
More dependable, then I could see it. But
I agree.
People that really love firearms, I could see them thinking this is something that's cool, but not necessarily something that they would really want.
No, it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, it's inaccurate, and you're only going to get a few shots out of it.
Yeah.
So your normal gun owner might print one just for novelty, but he's not going to use it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. 232-1542. All right, we go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, didn't Carbon Williams perfect the one of the blowback systems while he was incarcerated in state prison in North Carolina? I mean, criminals get guns. They make guns. And they don't need a 3D printer. You get the cheap 3D printer is $1,000, and you can buy a pretty nice 9mm semi-automatic for less than $1,000.
Yeah, but you can't get it past a metal detector. That's the risk.
Well, yeah, but the criminals are not going to go where there's a chance to be caught. If there's a metal detector, then there's a chance that they're going to be caught because there's going to be security there.
Yeah, it's a good point.
They're not a lot of criminals are going to rob banks where they have security guards.
Yeah, like most of. I got you. All right, thanks for the call.
Well, a lot. I mean,
think that there will be
everyday
he's right.
common criminal.
He's right. It's not going to be even practical for criminal behavior, but it is available for criminal behavior if there is a place that they want to go to where they run the risk of getting caught going through a metal detector, and they only need to shoot it a few times.
Yeah. Well, like I said, your everyday common, gangbanger or whatever criminal, this is not something that's really going to be handy for them.
No.
It's someone that's trying to stay a little untraceable. And, hey, maybe they don't, maybe they've got a situation set up where, if they're going through an airport, they don't have to have the gun with them at that point. They can have one rating on the other side. So, 232-1542, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, even before, the 3D printers, remember back there was a movie, John Malkovichs, showing use of a plastic gun.
Yeah, I mentioned that
earlier. Some of the basic knowledge of how to pour some molds and some basic tools, drill press and a Dremel. They can accomplish the same thing without a printer and not even have to spend money on one of those.
I thought that the gun that he made was out of wood, but you may be right. It was made out. But nevertheless, he made a gun. He fabricated a gun that was not metal.
Correct. Yeah. It was a 2-chamber. So you had 2 shots and that was it. But using it for assassination attempt.
That's right. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, sir. All right, 232-1542. We'll go ahead and take this quick commercial break. When we come back, more of your thoughts as we have one more segment left of this discussion, talking about 3D printed guns. Where are we now? Where are we headed with them? We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Offsides, everybody. We're talking about 3D printing and how you can use this technology now to make your own plastic gun, and how this is going to be very potentially dangerous in the future. The technology of these guns isn't very advanced. They're not very accurate. You can only get a few shots out of each one. Then they don't work anymore. They fall apart. They melt, and then you need to make another one. However, as Brandon and I were discussing earlier, the real concern is as that technology advances, so will the capability of these weapons.
232-1542, 232-1542. We'll go ahead and go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Is it me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Oh, man, where to start? This is a big problem.
Well, come on.
Where do you see us in 20 years after this problem has started if they don't nip it now? These guns are going to be everywhere, very easy to get. And, I mean, the criminals are going to set the standards. Yeah, you're going to have your righteous people at home that's making them for their own entertainment. They're going to be the ones in court getting hurt and trying to come up with some reason they get owed something. But the criminals are going to be setting the standards, and it's all about, they can make this gun out of plastic. Okay, well, what are they going to sell it for? They might sell it for $10 because they can print another one. And it's the same thing with a stolen gun. I've had guns stolen from me and get them back from the police, and the police say the guy bought it for $20, and it was a $400 pistol that, the guy on crack, what's it worth to him?
Yeah.
It's only worth $20. The guy that's printing it, if he can print as many as he wants to, what's the price to him? What's it worth to him? And these things could be everywhere, could flood the market.
Yeah.
And it brings up, like the Manchurian candidate, the guy, he poured an epoxy gun and snuck it in, brainwashed the guy to use it. When he got there, he had snuck the bullet in through his belt buckle. It was a small caliber pistol, and he had a little 32 stuffed in made a special compartment in his belt buckle.
Yeah.
So getting the ammo in with the gun, the smart people gonna figure it out.
Well, you can bring it in separately. You can bring in one bullet at a time. You could get different people to bring in bullets. People that might work in a workplace where you're trying to commit this crime. Bring the bullets in, hide them somewhere for you. It's a lot easier to smuggle in bullets one at a time over a period of several days than it is to bring in a full-size handgun that is made out of metal and get it past a metal detector.
Right.
I thought you made an interesting point also in the fact that this could be something where someone uses it to make money. They make the investment in the printer, pay a decent price for a good one, but then they're making these guns. Maybe, they're connected with people that it really doesn't matter. They'll make some guns for them, make a nice profit, and, they've got the 3D, they've got a good 3D printer in town, and they can make a lot of money off of it.
Hey, look, that could be that's an excellent business model. Okay, if you've got the money to buy the 3D printers, you can buy 10, 15 3D printers, put them in a garage, and they do it they don't even need to be monitored. Okay, all you got to do is press go, load the plastic, and then come back. I'm not sure how long it takes.
Yeah.
It takes a few hours. You come back, put the more plastic in, you make another one. So you can be you can be manufacturing these guns, and you can start your own gun business right out of your own garage.
Well, like on the movie Ride Along, it was a comedy.
Oh, yeah.
They end up finding these Russian Mafia guys in town selling guns. Well, they play it like, you're trying to sell this guy replica guns. When the comedian walks in and says all these guns are replicas. Mm-hmm. Well, imagine if you're you actual arms dealer and you're buying guns, and all of a sudden, you've got all these crates full of these 3D printed guns.
Yeah.
The criminals are going to set the standards as far as the sale of those guns, because they're not going to be for sale. It's illegal to sell such a thing.
Yep, it is.
Mm-hmm. You'll have your people at home making them, and they'll be the ones getting hurt, but they'll have people in the streets mass producing them, possibly. And who knows? And, they could be selling crates of them. They could be selling one or two to the wrong people.
Oh, yeah.
Bring it to school. Man, I mean, it's just ridiculous. That's where metal detectors are getting implemented nowadays, is in schools. And these things can be owned by anybody. I mean, technical colleges are going to own these things. They'll be available to criminals, no matter how you try to hide the stuff from the public. If it's, the library over here has bought one. They're in the public.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the call.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up next. Go ahead.
Is it me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, everybody's talking about the bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if you take a shotgun, for instance, the only thing that's metal on a shotgun is the brass casing with the firing pin and the projectile, of course. But you also have different types of plastic. Suppose they use just a brass casing and everything else is plastic. A hard plastic projectile would do damage just as well as a piece of brass.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, wouldn't it be crazy if they started developing a plastic that you could make with a 3D printer, and the plastic is so durable that it could withstand the firing of being fired as a gun, and then you can actually have plastic bullets.
Well, you know what a lot of people don't realize nowadays, even bulletproof vests are made with Kevlar.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they invent something like that, but they could sure invent a plastic that'll hold up to kill someone.
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, the
right.
plastic might not hold up in firing the weapon at a distance. Okay, but if you are at close distance, you may be able to develop a plastic that's strong enough for you to make a 3D bullet out of it and still be able to kill somebody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
232-1542. Trying to get a couple more calls in before we have to head to the top of the hour. You're up next, caller. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question was pretty much that. How do you get a metal bullet through, a metal detector? And even, I think they could probably do a hard plastic bullet, but you still got a metal casing, and maybe they do that plastic, but then you got a metal primer. I don't know if that's too small, but
yeah,
I really couldn't listen because I was calling in, but that's pretty much my question about the bullet getting through metal detector.
Yeah. Well, a gun is worthless without the bullets, and I think that's going to be the next thing. You can find some type of a bullet that is able to make it through a metal detector. Now you've got plastic guns.
Yeah.
You've got undetectable bullets. Man, you got a problem.
Well, and you also mentioned during the break as well that there are some ways, like maybe swallowing the bullet that someone can get in. Yeah,
you could put it in there.
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody knows where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Prisoners put things in there all the time.
Yep. All right, 232-1542. One more call. You are on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, as far as plastic bullets, I've been firing plastic bullets for years. In fact, I have plastic expansion rounds. It's 177 caliber. As far as the casing, that's brass, but they make them in aluminum. They make them in brass. They could make it in other materials. In fact, a lot of this stuff is reloadable. So if you take out the reloadable thing in there, you can make a plastic casing that could be used one time. So, yeah, it's already very possible. So just want to let you guys know that it's a 177 caliber round. It's plastic. So,
all right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and take this quick commercial break. We've got a brand new discussion ready for you in the 5 o'clock hour, so make sure you stay tuned for that. You're listening to Offsides, Brandon and Shannon, News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
What's up, Acadiana, and welcome to Offsides. I'm Shannon Wilkerson here with Brandon Comeaux. Thanks for joining us for today's broadcast. It is 5:08. We'll be with you until 6 o'clock. Bright, warm Wednesday afternoon. The skies are clear, and it really is a beautiful summer afternoon. Not too terribly hot out there today. In fact, earlier I was went home for lunch, and there was a little bit of a breeze.
Yeah,
not much.
Okay,
but it's kind of one of those things. It's like a breeze tease.
Yeah,
all right. Not a full-fledged breeze, but the air was moving just a little bit. And
how y'all liking this cold front? It's making its way through.
My goodness, it's freezing out there.
Yes.
Okay, so listen. Now we've got something. This is one of the conversations that Brandon and I really like to have because it's the funnest part about doing this show is when we talk about how pathetic people are. Okay, that's the best way for me to talk about it. All right, it's a perfect way for me to intro Trump derangement syndrome, and that's what we're talking about this hour. We're talking about this mock diagnosis that is actually existing out there that clinical psychologists and therapists are using. Trump derangement syndrome. Just to give you an example, DC-based psychologist Elizabeth LaMotta described the collective anxiety as people that have for people that have a fear of the world is ending because Donald Trump was in fact elected president. Another clinical psychologist, Jennifer Panning of Illinois, she identifies it as Trump, anxiety disorder. And she says this exists because of symptoms that were specific to the election of Trump and the result being an unpredictable socio-political climate. Also talks about the feelings of loss of control and helplessness. And I believe that this is just another one of those ways that now therapists will be going crazy. Thus, listen to those words. Therapists going crazy, being able to have a whole new diagnoses, and they're going to diagnose these people that are just completely convinced that the world is going to end. They're having terrible anxiety. And I'll tell you something. I looked through the description of what they're identifying this Trump Derangement Syndrome as. I'll get into them later. But I'll tell you something. It's a perfect description of the way these people are behaving. And so, although it is a mock diagnosis, I believe that it is an accurate diagnosis because it is the perfect description of them.
Well, you see, Trump anxiety disorder or Trump anxiety syndrome sounds a little bit more official. Trump derangement syndrome is definitely something that was coined by pro-Trump supporters to describe those that are going out and screaming at the top of their lungs, like the ones that were doing when he was sworn in on Inauguration Day, crying, just really getting so furious and upset to the point that they really have become a danger to people around them.
I think you're right. And I'll tell you, this Trump derangement syndrome, I didn't make it up.
It's just funny to hear.
I know this Trump derangement syndrome. As these therapists and these liberals are going to tie themselves to that, and then more and more of them are going to say they have Trump derangement syndrome to explain their behavior. I'll tell you something. It is actually going to benefit the Trump campaign, and I'll tell you why. Because they are identifying themselves as being deranged. Derangement. Okay, so they are. So listen, all the Trump campaign has got to do is say, look, all these people over here, they are all deranged. Their opinions are completely skewed. They're freaking out over nothing. And so their message as anti-Trumpers or never-Trumpers, if you will, now becomes very skeptical. So anybody that was listening to anything they were saying before, now they have to be very skeptical of their message because, hey, look, these people are in fact identifying themselves as deranged.
But whether you want to call it Trump derangement syndrome or Trump anxiety disorder,
same thing.
And I'm going to go with the anxiety disorder one. But whether you want to call it that or not, basically, I think this is not only impacting, obviously, the people that are, quote unquote, suffering from it, but also the people that are in their lives that don't agree with their views on Donald Trump. You know, this is something that is breaking up marriages. It's hurting families. We always joke around about, politics and, some people said, look, don't mix politics at the dinner table when it comes to family events and such.
So it's dangerous.
This is something that kind of takes it to that next level. And it's unfortunate to see that because two people disagree on a political figure. And you could take it to the other side with Obama as well, that it's actually breaking up marriages and actually breaking up long-time friendships.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, who coined this phrase was Charles Krauthammer.
Yeah.
But he was identifying the late, great Charles.
Yeah.
That's right. But he was talking about Bush. He actually identified this as, he was originally saying that there was something called Bush derangement syndrome. But
that one doesn't flow off the tongue.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't. It's not quite as entertaining. Yeah. Okay, because when Bush was elected, they didn't have these grown adults crying and weeping on camera. And they didn't
have the vagina hats.
With the vagina hats. That's exactly right. They didn't have the women's march, right after the election where, thousands of women were already protesting him. He hadn't even been sworn in yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so Trump derangement syndrome or Trump anxiety disorder, this is a real thing.
And unlike Bush, who didn't really respond much to his critics, President Trump goes out there on a daily basis and just punches and just jabs at him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He is
just stirs the pot.
It's like he's Ali.
Yeah.
Okay? He's not Mike Tyson. He doesn't even want to knock these people out.
No.
He's just kind of floating
Toys
around.
with 'em.
He's toying with them. Jab, jab, jab. I'm going to go over here. Then he does the rope-a-dope. Go ahead. Hit me all you want.
Yeah.
Just make yourself tired. I'm going to be fine.
232-1542. All right, the phone lines open up as soon as we said Trump derangement syndrome. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
My mom this describes my mother to a T.
Oh, man.
Oh, Lord.
It's crazy. I mean, I'm originally from California. Please don't
hold it against you.
We won't hold you against it. Hey, the weather's beautiful out there. I don't blame you.
But hey, but I've been out of California now for probably 25 or 30 years, and my mother I have never seen anybody. She's like a little kid. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But I think you're right when you say it's going to help them in the election, because I think there's more people who are more grounded, if you will, more grounded people than there are nut jobs.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. There's a lot of nut jobs out there, I tell you. And I just think that it's so ideal for what we're experiencing right now. It's the perfect description. And the worst, I guess, the worst part about it for them, and the best part about it for Trump supporters, is that they've come up with them themselves. They've got the therapist saying, "Oh, you've got Trump derangement disorder. You've got Trump anxiety disorder. Here, let me write this prescription for you." And I want to know. I couldn't find it. I'd like to know what the suggested medication is for Trump disorder.
Medical marijuana. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So, but look at Whoopi Goldberg. The minute that Judge Jeanine Pirro said what she said, Whoopi flipped.
Oh yeah, it's true. They're all just flipping out. They still cannot get over the fact that he won the election. Mm-hmm. It's like this nightmare, this bad dream that they keep wanting to wake up from, and then they realize it's not a dream; it's reality. He really did win the election.
All right, thank you, caller. 232-1542. You're up next, caller. Go ahead.
Afternoon, guys.
Hey.
Well, I guess if they have Trump, like you say, derangement symptoms or whatever, they should be able to buy a weapon then, right? If they're a danger to themselves or others.
Well, if you were listening in the 4 o'clock hour, all they need is a 3D printer and some plastic. They can make their own.
Well, what happens when Trump's gone? Is it insert name here, disorder, or?
It depends on who gets elected.
It depends on elected.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Depends who gets elected,
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
232-1542.
I'm surprised before this they just didn't have Congress derangement disorder. Now that's a disorder we could give some merit to.
Yeah. CDD. 232-1542. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
It's not so much that they're still whining or pining about the election. It's about how the guy has been acting since he got elected that is really driving most of people's frustration with the man. So this whole and look, this again, Charles Krauthammer, right-wing conspiracy theorist. I mean, it's a conspiracy theory on the part of the right wing that just because you don't like the man, you suffer from some sort of derangement.
Well, let me say this, because I think there's a difference. I felt like it would go without saying, but I had a feeling we'd have to say it at some point. Not everyone that's against President Trump would obviously classify under this type of heading. You're talking more about people that you see get put on the news, and some people know them as well, that will go off, and I mean they will holler and scream at people because they support Trump. People that like the video of the guy that took the kids' "Make America Great Again" hat and threw soda all over him. Like one of the stories that Moon was telling the other day, where this man was aggravating and harassing these 2 elderly women because they had a "Make Alaska Great Again" hat on, and it looked very much like the "Make America Great Again." Yeah, those are the kind of people, not the people that disagree with his policies, but the people that are taking it to this crazy level, if you will.
Well, it has totally taken over their behavior. And another example is the people that keep attacking and destroying his star on the Walk of Fame. They they can't get it off of their mind. They are completely obsessed with the fact that he's president, and they just keep fighting back, and it's making them crazy. It's literally making them crazy.
Yeah, people that would use violent outbursts, whether they're physical or whether they're just verbal.
Right.
So much like that mob yesterday in Tampa at his rally, and I don't know why he continues to, have political rallies, because he won the election. So, but much like that mob yesterday who was flipping the bird off and cussing out the CNN reporters.
Yeah.
Did you see the video of that?
No, but I heard about it. I don't doubt it.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I don't doubt it either.
Yeah.
I saw the headline, and I read the headline and a few bits and pieces about it, but I did not watch the video.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's a hatred between Trump supporters and CNN, and I'm not gonna try to condone the conduct of what you just said that they did, but there is a legitimate hatred between the two, in the fact that you've got one network that every day is always putting out information and headlines to just completely take people against Trump, and then his supporters feel that, and they're like enemies to each other.
They're angry now, okay? And I don't condone that behavior.
Right.
I will say this, that is the behavior that they have been receiving, and so many people have been receiving constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that people are starting to get fed up with it.
Yeah.
So much like you had with Fox when Obama was president. I mean, this is not unusual. It was called Bush Derangement Syndrome.
Yeah, but I don't think that any of us have seen anything like this. Okay, when Bush was elected, when Obama was elected, I mean, you didn't have you didn't have all this video footage of all these people weeping in the streets and screaming, and these big protests that were taking place before he was even sworn in. I think that what we are seeing now is, you're right, we've always had issues like this, but man, we've never experienced anything like now. It is so aggressive in nature, and it is so widespread, as Brandon was just saying, that I think that this is unique.
Can I say one more thing? And I'll go, because, look, the weeping that you're talking about was what took place during the election. During the election night. On election night, as far as I remember.
I know, but then it took place afterwards. They had these college campuses that were having cry-ins. Where they were actually scheduling an event. Let's all get together and cry because Trump had been elected.
And the protest, the Women's March protest, was about the supposed sexual assault and the grabbing of the JJ tape.
How come they didn't do that? So how come they didn't organize when Bill Clinton was in the White House?
I was just getting ready to say that. I mean, Bill Clinton came in with a lot of baggage. We didn't see these big protests then, and I mean,
and then his wife runs for president, and it's okay with them that she gets in.
And you're right. We've always had these issues, but I think that we can at least agree that we haven't seen anything like this before.
I agree, and I think a lot of it is blown way out of proportion. I think you had just as much hatred. Look, I lost a good friend of mine didn't talk for like 3 months because he kept sending me these, if not borderline, these racist emails every morning, right?
Yeah.
And I said, look, man, I don't want to see this stuff, man. Just please stop, And he wouldn't stop. And so finally I blew it up. And we didn't talk for like 3 months. And he was like one of my best friends. And people were like, you and I am not going to mention his name, going to be okay. And I said, well, it's up to him.
I know. It happened. That is a very common story. And I know of many people where friendships have completely broken down because of the fact that he won the election.
All right, we're a little bit overdue on this break, so we have to get to it. But first, your J&J Exterminating Pest of the Day.
Time to call in the experts. It's the J&J Pest of the Day.
All right, so we head to Nitro, West Virginia, and that's a pretty cool name of a city. West Virginia man is in hot water for allegedly trying to rob his grandmother for drug money.
Police say Cole Cooper got violence towards the woman at a gas station this past Monday and tried to force her to cash a check for him.
They say he needed money for drugs, but he ended up in a jail cell.
Employees at the gas station assisted the elderly woman, and no injuries have been reported. So, Cole Cooper is your J&J Exterminating Pest of the Day.
Respect your grandma.
All right, everybody, you know what that means. It's time to talk a minute about Cajun Harley-Davidson. Cajun Harley-Davidson now has a new offer called Warranty Forever. Warranty Forever provides a lifetime limited powertrain warranty. This warranty is included in every new and pre-owned bike under 5 years old and is at no additional cost to the buyer.
Also, Cajun Harley-Davidson is the only Harley-Davidson dealership in the state of Louisiana that has the Warranty Forever program. Now, regular maintenance is required, so make sure you go into Cajun Harley-Davidson and discuss the details with one of the awesome sales team members.
Yeah, great opportunity. All right, so we're going to continue talking about Trump derangement syndrome. Just to give, we got some callers holding on. We appreciate that. We're going to get right to the phone lines. Just to give you a description of how they identified this, there are 3 stages, believe it or not. In the first stage of the disease, victims lose all sense of proportion. The president-elect's every tweet provokes a firestorm of anxiety for them. The mid-level stages of TDS have a profound effect on the victim's vocabulary. They have trouble expressing themselves properly in their normal vocabulary. And the third stage, as TDS progresses, the afflicted lose the ability to distinguish fantasy from reality. Now, if you listen to that, that sounds like a seriously mentally ill person. But these are just people that are mad because of who's president.
232-1542. They're not just mad that he was president, that he became president. They're furious. It's consuming their life.
Yes,
unfortunately.
they're miserable.
They're miserable.
I mean, they have allowed this to ruin their lives, basically.
Yeah. 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Okay, I really believe there is such thing as a Trump derangement, and I think I have a cure for it. When I was a kid, in French they call it the derangement, and the cure for it was some Pepto-Bismol.
Okay. The derangement?
That's what the derangement.
Yeah, all right.
You never heard of the derangement?
No.
No, but I love hearing new Cajun phrases every day.
Yeah,
Thank you,
good
caller.
one. Thank you.
All right, 232-1542. You're up next, caller. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is amazing that some yo-yo actually thought this up. So obviously he's got too much time on his hands to name it that. But the thing is, they don't realize every time they complain and they do things, it just draws more attention to Trump. So now, let me guess, he's the first U.S. president to have a disease named after him?
Well,
it sounds like it.
Well, I mean, there was the Bush derangement syndrome that Shannon was mentioning earlier, but that one didn't have as much legs as this one.
Yeah, these people weren't freaking out about Bush like they are now.
No. Thank you, caller. All right, 232-1542. You're up next, caller. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead, caller. All right.
Hey, come on.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're on the Cajun Harley hotline. Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember this, but when Trump was first elected, they had a collage or like something that was put together with all of the faces of all of the people crying, and it was put together. A compilation was put together to actually make Trump's face, and when you zoomed in on it, each of the little pixels was an individual picture of a person crying when he was elected.
Unbelievable.
Y'all remember that? It was my son showed it to me. So this is the thing. When Obama was in office, I suffered from 3 very severe diseases. ODAD, PDTO, and UCAS. Obama depression anxiety disorder, poor due to Obama, and unemployed and can't afford you know what.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's clever.
Well, I've had some time waiting to get through, so I was coming up with some doozies.
But aren't you happy you were able to overcome?
And all of that stuff went away.
Yeah, and
I'm not poor anymore. I don't have anxiety. I can pay my bills.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing.
Did you need therapy or medication?
Oh, no, I didn't. You know what I did? I got off my butt and I went to work and I picked up 2 extra jobs.
Good for you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, 232-1542. Always entertaining to hear from her.
Yeah.
Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, if they go to the doctor and he diagnoses them with this, the first thing he needs to do is tell them to quit drinking all this lip-tart Kool-Aid they've been drinking. And second, he needs to prescribe them a heavy dose of Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, and maybe a little bit of Ben Shapiro common sense.
Yeah. Or how about a little offsides?
Yeah, he could listen to you guys too.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate it, Carl. Now, look, I'll say this, man. One thing that's entertaining about Mark Levin, which follows us, is that Mark Levin will get on Trump sometimes. And he'll let him have it sometimes.
Yes,
and there's areas
You're
where
right.
Trump is not as conservative as Levin would like him to be. He will go off on Trump.
Oh, I
and
agree.
it's hilarious.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back.
No.
Okay, nobody is off limits whatsoever.
232-1542. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Whatever happened to the people, the Hollywood types that said they were leaving the United States if Trump won? Why are they still here?
I don't know, man. It's a good question. I think that they forgot all about it. They realized that Canada sucks. That's what happened. Okay, they were like, "I'm going to go live in Canada. I'm going to go live in Canada. It'll be wonderful over there." And then they actually maybe looked into it and said, not too much going on here, guys.
Thank you, caller. All right, 232-1542. You're up next, caller. Go ahead.
Well, all of these people with Trump anxiety syndrome, they need to grow up and get over themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Good.
You know, and as far as for dividing families, I remember when my wife and I were just dating, I sat at the same table on Christmas or New Year's Day, and me and my father-in-law, future father-in-law at the time, sat across the table from one another, and we had opposing views on the governor's race here in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't divide us, you know. I mean, this is stupid. You know, I mean, people just need to grow up and get over themselves. That's all I got to say.
No,
Thank
good
you.
point.
Yeah, and I could be wrong in this, but I feel like everyday people, not people that are super saturated with politics, but everyday people that were involved in politics could have conversations like what he just talked about there, have a disagreement and move on. Whereas today it's become a whole lot, it becomes more personal today.
They just cannot let it go. They can't move on. And people, especially people that are anti-Trump, never Trumpers, if you will. And these are people that it wouldn't matter what he did. If he donated every bit of his net worth, or if he liquidated everything and said, "Okay, everybody, I have put away just enough money for retirement. Okay, couple $1,000,000. I'm going to live very conservative for the remainder of my life, and I'm liquidating everything. I am going to give every penny of my net worth away to charity." They're still going to hate him and think that there is some agenda behind it and that he's being funded by the Russians or something ridiculous like that. And these are people that we're talking about. It wouldn't matter what he did.
232-1542. Got to take this quick commercial break. When we come back, more of your calls on Offsides. And welcome back into Offsides. 232-1542 is the number to call to get in on the conversation. And so Trump derangement syndrome, it's what we've been talking about here in the 5 o'clock hour. The Urban Dictionary defines Trump derangement syndrome as, quote, a mental condition in which a person has been driven effectively insane due to their dislike of Donald Trump to the point at which they will abandon all logic and reason.
Yeah.
We've talked about that throughout the hour, Shannon, which you said some people that are opposed to him so much in that it doesn't matter what nice thing he does, they will always oppose him, and they'll do it without any logic or reason.
Right.
People that have allowed themselves to just be absolutely miserable simply because Donald Trump is the president.
Yes.
You know, those all fall under this category.
Yeah, he owns them. And that's the position he's taken. And I think that most of the time when he releases these tweets, he is just feeding that fire. And I think that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the top of the hour, I think that this is going to help him and his supporters when it comes time to campaign, because they are self-identifying themselves as being deranged. And these are diagnoses that they have come up with for themselves. And now, it's a mock diagnosis. Excuse me. It's a mock diagnosis. It's not an official diagnosis. But I'll tell you, if they get enough of the medical community behind them, won't it be crazy if they end up on disability?
Oh, man. That's a good point. And some might say not only does he feed it, but he also feeds off of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have the perfect prescription for Trump derangement syndrome. It's called a 40 to 60-hour work week.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I mean, if they work and they're not worried about it, you know what I mean? You ain't got time to worry about it.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I see that. I see these protesters, all these people, these tens of thousands of people in the street during the week, and that's the first thing I think of. How can you do this and maintain any responsible employment? Where are these people? How are they getting off work so regularly? And it's because so many of them don't work.
And they can get paid to protest.
There's a lot of them that do that too.
To her, because she's part of photography stuff, to actually go pay protest for money. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but they're paying these people to protest.
Yeah, I hear you. It's an interesting career.
If you had a 5-day-a-week job, you wouldn't be doing that. You wouldn't be worried about it.
No, because you're busy working. And then at the end of the day, guess what? You're tired.
Thank you, caller. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're on the Cajun Harley Hotline. Go ahead.
These people doing these things, they know that they are losers. The reason why they're doing this is because they are being entitled. They're giving the government is giving them the power to do this short term, so that the government will, in the long term, attain the goals that they want politically. When all of this stuff is said and done, these losers are going to have nothing. They won't have a job. They won't have any kind of welfare, because all that's going to be gone.
Yeah.
All of these people, they're basically tools that are being used by the government.
I think you put it perfectly when you said tools being used by the government, because that's right. Now, I think in their sense of being irrational, they don't think about that fact. They don't think about the fact that they are ultimately puppets, being used by people like George Soros and people that
Hillary Clinton, I mean, Maxine Waters, it goes on. And I tell you, the more out of control they get, and the more videos we see of them behaving in a violent nature, they were encouraged by Maxine Waters to basically harass any Trump supporters. And now we are seeing more and more videos of people sitting, minding their own business, having dinner at a restaurant, walking down the street, not bothering anybody. But if they have a Trump T-shirt, a Trump hat, a Trump pin, anything that represents their support of the president, they are attacked by people on the street. They cannot go out in public. And I think the more and more that we see that, the more his base support is going to continue to grow. And the people that are already supporting him, they're going to become more and more loyal. That makes people mad. I get really mad when I see that. I've got no problem with people disagreeing on political views, because as Brandon said, I would agree with Brandon. I'm not necessarily a big Trump supporter all the time. But I'll tell you, the way that this has evolved to where if you are a Trump supporter in any way, you are the villain, and these people are lashing out at you, those videos are going to become more and more common, and people will respond when it comes time to vote. I don't think you can say that on the air, buddy.
All right. No, we're going to go ahead and take another call, 232-1542. You're on the air, caller. Go ahead.
Hi. I am old enough to remember and have lived through the 70s. Mm-hmm. We had something very similar to this during the 70s, the late 60s and early 70s, when Kent State occurred, and we were in Vietnam, and people were objecting to it.
Yes.
Now, the people that were objecting were college students primarily, or that age student.
Yes.
Well, that seems very, very similar to what we're doing now. What fueled those college students and those young adults were the college professors and the idiots that live in California in the movie industry. Mm-hmm. And those are the same ones that are fueling this.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, your description sounds very familiar.
It is very familiar. It's a cycle. It's kids who are not disciplined, kids who think that they know what they're talking about. It's the college professors who want to drag them off to the left end of the spectrum over there, and the kids follow them. I was in college in the 70s. I had a professor who said, if you don't go to to the Capitol, this was in Baton Rouge, if you don't go to the Capitol and protest whatever it was he was in favor of, he said that I'm going to fail you. And I went straight to the dean, and the dean said, well, that's his right. It's his class. And I said, well, I'm not going to take the class. I'm dropping the class. Because I wasn't going to go campaign for somebody I didn't know or argue about something I didn't even understand.
Well, you're right. I hear the same thing. My mother and I have a lot of conversations about this same situation. And it's her opinion also that everything is cyclical. Everything comes around. And this is a pattern that she, too, has also seen. And I hope that both of you are right. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think because it has gone so far to the left, and the left is, and before, you're right, this existed before, but I don't know, I don't believe that the media was as strong as it is now, simply because we did not have satellite television, we did not have the 24-hour news cycle, and we did not have social media. Mm-hmm. And I think that is fueling that and giving this movement a lot of muscle and a lot of credibility that it didn't exist before.
Well, I'll say this. I think, Milton, that what you said, a lot of what you said, I agree with it completely. I think the president himself, I think the man himself, Donald Trump, has to do with a lot of what's going on now. Because had you put in someone like a Mitt Romney in there, who's a Republican, who would have been able to get the White House, yeah, they would have tried to demonize him, but I don't think the objections to him would have been this outlandish. Well, that's because, as what we're seeing now.
That's because he would not engage in the fight.
Exactly.
Okay, Trump hits back constantly. Yeah, he is constantly on Twitter. Mitt Romney wouldn't have done that.
No.
Okay, Mitt Romney would have just maybe been similar to how Bush was. I'm just going to do my job, let those people run their mouth, and I'm just going to focus on getting my job done.
Right.
Okay, Trump engages that fight and thrives on it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an irritant, all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was some very true words right there. All right, 232-1542. All right, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Is it me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, hello.
Good evening. There's a simple term for those people, and it was attributed to Lenin. It's called the useful idiots.
Useful idiots.
Useful idiots. Idiots can be very useful if you give them the right information.
Thank you, caller. All right, 232-1542. You're up. Oh, never mind. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and take this break. We're a little overdue for the break anyway. 232-1542. Get your calls in. We'd love to hear from you in the final segment of Offsides here on this Wednesday.
Welcome back to Offsides, everybody. Having a really lively, entertaining, and informative conversation with our listeners about Trump derangement disorder, Trump anxiety disorder. This is something that therapists are really describing as a real disorder that people are having because they are totally obsessed with the fact that President Trump is in office. Donald Trump is our president, and it is basically taken over their lives. They can't sleep. They are basically having a completely deranged view of the country, of the world, and they're miserable. They're completely miserable. Now they're going to therapists, crying, whining, totally upset about everything that's going on. They think the world is coming to an end, literally think the world is now coming to the end because of who is seated as president. And now the therapists have now said, okay, well, you've got Trump anxiety disorder.
Yeah, there was one therapist that said that one of her clients asked the question, is he going to blow us all up?
Yeah, I mean, people think that.
Yeah, they do. 232-1542. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Yes. Sorry. Two things. One, I was up in Washington during the protest for the border separations.
Yes, sir.
And discussing it with my brother-in-law, who had lived up there for a time as he was stationed up there at one of the bases. He actually said that when he goes out and he noticed it's the same people every protest. Mm-hmm. So there is something to these guys getting paid to go, or they just don't have anything else to do. They are not gainfully employed.
Mm-hmm.
They go and they do this.
And they're not motivated to become gainfully employed.
No, why do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, they've all got snap cards. They're probably all on some type of disability or getting some type of funding from the government, and now they're making money on the side being professional protesters.
Right. And the second point, I had a friend of mine who was on Facebook, and they posted a video when we were talking about the tariffs and everything, and they had just been placed on the Canadian products. And they posted a thing, which not a terrible thing, just, hey, buy Canadian, kind of like we do, buy USA products.
Mm-hmm.
And I pointed out to them, hey, guys, don't freak out about the tariffs and, all of this. I said, it's a negotiation strategy. Oh, well, what's your source that it's a negotiation strategy? And I pointed out to the interview with Donald Trump that Maria Bartiromo did. Or maybe it was Judge Janine, I forget. But they wouldn't accept that as the source. That's how deranged they were. They would not accept his own words as the source.
Yeah. Well, they won't listen to reason. That's one way to describe what you just were talking about. They won't listen to reason, even when you try to. We get callers here on our show pretty regularly, and just the other day we had a caller. And he was just completely out of control. And Brandon and I were both just trying to discuss the situation with him and ask him some clear questions and offer up the opportunity for him to ask us some questions so that we could explain to him why we had our opinion and he could explain to us why he had his. But it was like talking to a lunatic. I mean, he wouldn't listen to anything. And that is exactly the way that these other people are behaving.
That's right. What they're doing is they are basing everything that they want, everything that they think and believe off of emotion. And emotion and logic they don't coexist in conversations together. If you're logical, you can't get that person that's emotional to come to logic. You're not going to have a successful discussion.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I don't think it's possible with them.
All right, 232-1542, back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hello, fellas.
Hi.
Hey. There was the same level of frustration during the Obama administration, but you didn't see all of these displays.
Right.
And the reason why is because now there's more narcissism and less maturity.
I think,
people didn't vote for Obama who didn't like it just as much, but they didn't act like that.
I think that's a great way of putting it because, every time having discussion, I've seen people say, well, look, there were a lot of people upset with Obama. And yes, they were, but they weren't out demonstrating in the streets the way that these people were. They weren't threatening physical acts of violence on Obama supporters.
Yes.
They were upset with Obama supporters and made fun of them, but they weren't getting out there and putting out physical violence against them.
In many cases, they didn't say anything because they were worried about being labeled as a racist. They didn't want to be labeled as a racist. And so even though they might have wanted to protest peacefully,
right?
Many cases, I know that they did not because they didn't want to be labeled as a racist.
Well, and like earlier, one of our callers said, like Stacy said, she just put her head down and just worked that much harder and just to get to the other side of the presidency.
That's right.
There was one in Lafayette a couple years ago. I wasn't about to go, but I supported what they felt.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I think he did a great job of explaining that. 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Mama said that these stupid heads are even dumber than my daddy will boy to. He go now.
All right. Thank you, Bobby.
I think we have to
It's always good hearing from Bobby Boucher to wrap up today's any broadcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and call that a show. Coming up next, Fox News update at the top of the hour. Mark Levin as well. Go ahead.
We need to pray for that guy.
I love that he called.
So do I.
All right, yeah. We'll go ahead and call it a day there. Until tomorrow, have a great one.